How is it going, everybody? My name is DeMarco, and today I want to touch on the subject of morality within Starfield, a topic that we haven't heard anything yet officially from Bethesda or Todd Howard or other sources that are working on Starfield, and depending on how it's implemented, if at all, could be a very important gameplay mechanic within the universe of Starfield. Now, this video was inspired by the YouTuber BirdNGRG, however you want to pronounce that name. He made a video talking about morality within the context of Dishonored, and his main point was that Dishonored's morality system was excellent because there really wasn't a morality system. Yeah. It's a bit ironic. That's not 100% accurate, but we'll talk about it. So why discuss morality at all? Well, we know that Starfield is borrowing a lot of elements from past Bethesda games. This has been said time and time again from multiple sources, and we've even seen it for ourselves after the gameplay demo. You could see it with the way that leveling works in the game, where it's not just systems that we've gotten in the past, but it actually blends both Skyrim's use the skill to level up on top of more traditional investing points in order to progress in a particular skill tree. We see the zoomed in dialogue camera that's pulled from Oblivion or Fallout 3. There's the persuasion system, which Todd Howard and team almost directly said they're innovating from what we saw in Oblivion. Multiple times Bethesda has stressed how it's a more hardcore RPG, how they're going back to their roots, how they are looking at past games for inspiration, but one that hasn't come up was the karma system from Fallout 3. And if it were up to me, it's something that would stay far, far away from Starfield, especially in a title like Starfield, something that boasts the amount of openness and freedom that Starfield is claiming to have, from the way that the planets are handled with 1,000 planets that you can land on and discover for yourself, the freedom of choice, the freedom of discovery, the freedom to be who you want to be, several tenets that are pivotal to Bethesda games. Being able to choose the type of person you want to be within their worlds has been a staple of Bethesda titles for generations, and that continues in Starfield. You could be a space cowboy, you can be a space pirate, you can be part of the space police, really. Anything involving space is open for you to do. Bethesda provides a sandbox and some toys to play around with, and you decide how you want to go about experiencing that world. So how does that freedom relate to morality? Well, if the game is telling me exactly what is a right decision and what is a wrong decision, you're now in a way limiting and constraining that freedom that I have in order to make my own decisions. I could still do the same things that I want to do, and those actions will have repercussions, but being measured on a scale of good action, bad action, black, white, red, or blue is a gameplay mechanic that doesn't need to exist. The only thing that needs to be in place is to see the world react to the type of person that you want to be, because at the end of the day, morality isn't so black and white. It's a very gray area and typically is handled by the individual. What's morally right and wrong is not something that is factually or objectively determined based on the philosophy that you want to go with and which philosophers you choose to read. But if you look at some titles like Red Dead Redemption 2 or Mass Effect with the Paragon Renegade system, these systems tell you exactly what doing a good thing is and what doing a bad thing is, as determined by the game's developers within the framework of the world that the game takes place in, therefore limiting your ability to make mistakes because you're driven by systems that you can verifiably tell what your predetermined outcome will be. Does that mean that you're restricted in making the decisions that you want to make? Absolutely not. You can still go off and be a complete agent of chaos if you choose to, but you might be influenced by the meter that pops up telling you that you've earned bad boy points for doing that bad boy thing. And when you take it within the context of Starfield, where the freedom of choice to be who you want to be and go where you want to go is pivotal to the core experience of most Bethesda games, all Bethesda games really, you shouldn't have such a system, versus what Dishonored chooses to do is let the world react to the kind of person you are. Let the world react to the amount of chaos that you choose to ensue. The linearity that comes from having a karma system also takes away from the ultimate consequence of decisions that you make in the game.
As Emma mentioned before, it's, you can sort of, bring yourself back to neutral, by, I'll do a few good deeds, I'll help some people out so I can blow some more heads off later on. So it's things like that.
It trivializes the experience by making good and bad pretty negligible, because you can more or less course correct at any time just to get the result that you're looking for. But in addition, it also trivializes the consequence that comes as a result of those actions. Because if you are rewarded good boy points for evacuating that village or saving that NPC, well, now you expect good things to happen. It's just anticipated that because you took what the game determined as the righteous action, righteous things should happen back to you. And likewise, if you do bad things in the game, bad things should happen to you. And if the opposite happens, you feel punished for it. Like, it's not playing out how it's supposed to, and that's no fault of your own. That's what the game has led you to believe. You've effectively taken out the possibility of surprise in the way that the game handles your decisions. Yes, you've evacuated that village with the best of intentions because you knew about an impending space pirate attack they wouldn't be able to withstand. But now those folks, homeless, poor, don't have anywhere to go, are stuck facing off against the environment in the wilderness because they had nowhere else to go. And some of them, unfortunately, might not make it, either by the environment and creatures of the night coming and taking them away, or falling prey and ill to diseases and sicknesses that they can't fend off without the medicine that they left behind in their homes. Might not be the best example, but sometimes good things have bad consequences, and by telling the player that you've performed a good action and subsequently seeing a bad result, it's realistically unfair. Video games allow players to take part in either a power fantasy or to play into a role that you can't normally experience in real life. That's the beauty of games, and in doing so, it needs to allow you to make your own decisions. By stripping away that ability, or at least neutering it in some capacity, you're now removing the level of influence the player feels like they can actually have on the world. Freedom is a running theme within Starfield, and that should apply beyond just the places you go or the factions you join. It should apply to how you determine the actions you take, whether they were good or bad. Allow the player to make their own choices, to make it feel like they've made their own choices, and to respond to those accordingly, and then have the world respond to what I did. Show the implications of my actions through gameplay. Don't rely on some kind of point system to do that for you. It absolutely applies to a development side of things as well. If you want to use a karma system, then you know if player accumulates X points, provide X outcome. Versus if player makes this decision, and this decision, now you've isolated all the different paths that players might decide to take, and you build and explore those out. And yes, absolutely, some of them will inevitably lead to the same or very similar outcomes. Not every single choice in the game needs to have its own unique encounter, ending, so on and so forth. But don't bottleneck the development and the creativity that goes behind developing some of these aspects by simply narrowing it down to thumbs up or thumbs down. I did want to tackle the idea of crime and punishment as well. Crime and punishment specifically because we are talking about a universe that is as open as Starfield is, with 1,000+ planets that you could explore and hundreds of star systems. So how exactly will policing work within the context of Starfield's universe? You can't expect people to be following you all around. Of course, bounties should absolutely be placed on the player, and I suspect that might be how we see some of these systems play out, is through a bounty system, and you get random encounters when you're flying through space of people trying to approach, engage, and attack you and take you down for crimes that you may or may not have committed. However, I would like to see something more complex. I don't have the answer to that, admittedly. I don't know, but I would like to see a more developed system in place to approach because of the openness that Starfield does present. It's even more interesting to me when you consider the lore that we already know about Starfield, which includes the two biggest factions in the game, the Freestar Collective and the United Colonies, recently just got out of a war. And according to Emil Pagliarolo, the lead writer's own words, they're now in an uneasy peace. So where do you draw the line between how much one of those factions is willing to accept you helping out the other? Is it going to get to a point where the people of New Atlantis say, you know what, you've really been helping out the Freestar Collective, you're not welcome here anymore, get the hell out? I don't think so, especially considering you only have 4 major cities. Of course, there's sub-settlements and other places to go that are civilized within those areas, but there's only 4 main cities that we know about currently, so to lock you out of an entire one, it's a pretty bold move. Although, then again, Megaton happened, so That was also pretty bold. Fallout New Vegas had the idolized or the vilified system. I wouldn't mind seeing that one come back. I actually really did enjoy the way that system played out, and it made sense to me. Of course, if I do X, then it's going to piss off the other group, right? There's a lot of factors to consider, and if Bethesda wants to be the most epic sci-fi RPG of all time, they have their work cut out for them. So let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, I hope to see you all next time. So long, everybody.